Hi guys! My name is Lucky and welcome back sa second part ng ating lesson, the overview of object-oriented programming. So, ayun, salamat at nakarating kayo sa second part ng ating lesson, why do we use object-oriented programming? But before we direct into the advantages, let us discuss first the procedural or structural, their characteristics and disadvantages of structural programming. Why has OOP developed into such a widely used paradigm for solving business problems today? During the 1970s and 1980s, procedural-oriented programming languages such as C, Pascal, Fortran, and Algol were widely used to develop business-oriented software systems. Procedural languages organize the program in a linear fashion. They run from top to bottom as I discussed on the first part of this video. Procedural programming in any given procedure can be called at any point during a program's execution, including by any other procedures or itself. Especially in large, complicated programs, modularity is generally desirable. It can be achieved using procedures that have strictly defined channels for input and output, and usually also clear rules about what types of input and output are allowed or expected. To be considered a procedural, a programming language should support procedural programming by having an explicit concept of a procedure and syntax to define it. It should ideally support specification of argument types, local variables, recursive procedure calls, and use of procedures in separately built-in programs constructs. It may also support distinction of input and output arguments. So let us proceed to the characteristics of procedure-oriented programming. Number one, follow top-down approach. So in other words, the program is a series of steps that run one after another. Number two, data is given less importance than the function. Naka-focus si procedural programming sa more on functions than the data. Okay, vulnerability of data is there as function and share global data. Okay, number four, functions manipulate global data without letting other functions to know. And number five, big program is divided into small modules. And last, algorithms are designed first without bothering about minute detail. So there we have it, the characteristics of procedural programming. Let us proceed to the disadvantages of structural programming naman. So number one is programs became harder to maintain. Bakit nasabi po yun under structural programming? Kasi when we talk about structural programming, nabanggit ko ito sa unang video natin, na kapag meron tayong gustong code na kaparehas po ng dati, ang ginagawa po ng mga programmers ay dinuduplicate na lamang po yung code na yon para hindi na po babalik dun sa naunang code yung program natin. So meaning ay lumalaki yung program natin at dumadami din po yung mga nasasayang na line of codes. Instead na i-reuse natin yung code natin sa taas, ay kinokopya na lang po natin at ipipaste natin ulit. Kasi ang sinusundan ni structural programming or ni procedural ay top-down approach. Pangalawa, existing functionality was hard to alter without adversely affecting all the system's functionality. Nabanggit ko po kanina na kapag meron tayong gustong code, ay instead na i-call natin, ang ginagawa ay dinoduplicate natin yung code na yon. So, meaning, ang isang konting pagkakamali lang or alterations po ng data natin ay lahat po babasahin natin yung buong program, hanapin po natin yung kapareho po ng code na yon. Kasi instead na mag-reuse tayo ng code, ang ginagawa ay dinoduplicate yung data. So, ang hirap din po hanapin kung saan po yung mga na-duplicate na code natin para po iparehas natin, halimbawa ng data type lamang po, papalitan natin ng data type. Ang hirap pong maghanap using the procedural or structural programming. Next, new programs were essentially built from scratch. Consequently, there was a little return on the investment of previous efforts. Next, it was hard to translate business models into programming models. It worked well in isolation but did not integrate well with other systems. So, meaning, hindi po siya generic in integration or hindi mo siya magamit sa ibang system kasi po ay hindi siya reusable of codes. Naka-specific lamang po siya doon sa system na yon. Lastly, programming was not conducive to team development. Programmers needed to know every aspect of how a program worked and could not isolate their efforts on one aspect of a system. Ibig sabihin po nito, yung pong code natin ay hindi po siya pang team development. Okay? Ibig sabihin ay iisa lang po ang pwedeng mag-maintain kung sino po yung naunang gumawa ng code natin. Siya po ang makakabasa ng code kasi ang ginagamit po ay wala pong framework kundi kung ano po ang style or programming style ni programmer na yun po ang masusunod. Hindi po siya team development. Ibig sabihin, yung pong front-end at saka back-end, magkasama pong ginagawa ni programmer natin. Hindi po nakaseparate yung program na back-end, hindi po nakaseparate kay front-end. Now, as a result, many business software developers turn to object-oriented methodologies and programming languages to solve these problems. So the benefits are the following: a more intuitive transition from business analysis models to software implementation models. Number 2, the ability to maintain and implement changes in the programs more efficiently and rapidly. So later on, matatry natin yan. The ability to more effectively create software systems using a team process, allowing specialists to work on parts of the system. So, yun na po yung tinatawag natin kaninang team members or team process. Okay? Ibig sabihin ay nakaseparate po yung front-end, your back-end, yung pong database, developers, or administrators. Nakahiwalay po sila ng mga functions. Nakahiwalay po ang design, nakahiwalay po ang may hawak po ng database, nakahiwalay po ang may hawak po ng security. So, iba-iba na po sila, kaya po team members. Next, the ability to reuse code components in other programs and purchase component written by third-party developers to increase the functionality of programs with little effort. Ito naman po ay sa object-oriented, we reuse code instead of duplicate ng code natin. And of course, better integration with loosely coupled distributed computing system. Improve integration with modern operating system. In object-oriented, ito po ay pwede na po sa mga bagong-bagong operating system natin. Compatible na po siya. Okay, the ability to create more intuitive graphical user interface for the user. Since si object-oriented ay compatible sa mga bagong operating system, so mas madali na rin pong gumawa ng system with graphical user interface. Kapag meron na pong graphical user interface, ay mas madaling intindihin ng mga users natin kahit hindi sila IT, mas madali nilang gamitin yung system at mas naengganyo kasi meron na siyang user interface instead of the command line lamang po. So, ayun, ating pong naaral kung ano po ang procedural or structural programming. Atin din pong nakita kung ano po ang characteristics or disadvantages ni structural programming at atin din naaral ano po ang mga benepisyo sa paggamit ng object-oriented programming. Sana ay may natutunan po tayo at magkita-kita tayo sa susunod na video. I want to thank you for watching this video. I hope this was helpful for you. Please like and subscribe for more upcoming videos, and I will see you next time on the third part of our lesson. Bye-bye!